10 Nose Youth phenomenon gone viral on the Chinese internet. The glory days of the Chinese market over? Beauty brand discount war goes crazy. As US-Japan relations escalate, Beijing is no longer on equal footing. She takes action personally. US aims to cut China out of electric vehicle supply chain. It's all covered in today's China Truths. 10 Nose Youth phenomenon gone viral on the Chinese internet. After the popularity of the 4 Nose Youth trend in March, the Chinese internet has recently been abuzz with the 10 Nose Youth, accumulating over 10,000 likes. It was published by an user on the mainland platform Zhihu, including not donating blood. Despite the presence of blood donation vehicles in the streets, few people seem interested. Is the reluctance to donate blood driven by indifference or a deliberate, rational choice? Not making donations. This is linked to a crisis of trust and the sense of helplessness in the realm of public welfare. Frequent scandals involving charitable organizations have cast doubt on the act of making donations. Is the decision to refrain from donations rooted in a crisis of trust or a sense of helplessness toward public welfare? Not getting married. In contemporary society, an increasing number of young people are opting for late marriages or eschewing marriage altogether. Is the choice to avoid marriage indicative of a shift in values regarding matrimony or a response to the pressures of life? Not having children. With the escalating cost of raising children and changing perspectives on childbirth, more families are choosing to remain childless, or double/dual income no kids, DINK. Is the decision not to have children motivated by selfishness or a rational consideration of circumstances? Not buying a house. Confronted with exorbitant housing prices, many young individuals are choosing to rent rather than buy a house. Is the decision not to purchase a house a reaction to the challenges posed by housing prices or a rational choice? Not buying lottery tickets. In a society dominated by consumerism, many individuals are opting not to buy lottery tickets. Is this choice reflective of the emergence of a rational approach to consumption or an acknowledgement of life's pressures? Not entering the stock market. Embracing a cautious investment perspective is gaining popularity. Much like lottery tickets, the stock market is also fraught with risks. Not buying medical insurance. The flaws in the medical insurance system have eroded confidence among many. Is the decision not to purchase medical insurance driven by a crisis of trust or indicative of a systemic flaw? Not assisting the elderly. Helping the elderly is inherently virtuous, but in practical terms, it has become a potential risk. Is the choice to refrain from assisting the elderly a moral dilemma or a result of inadequate legal protection? 10. Not being moved emotionally. In the internet age, people confront a constant onslaught of information, leading to aesthetic fatigue. The lack of emotional response, is it a state of numbness or a consequence of a diminished pursuit of values? After it was published, the article has gone viral on the Chinese internet. One netizen sarcastically remarked, "What a prosperous era." One bluntly commented, "If lying down flat doesn't make others flat, then get up and hustle." The glory days of the Chinese market over? Beauty brand discount war goes crazy. The expansive Chinese market was once a battleground for major global manufacturers. However, with the current economic decline, numerous companies find themselves in intense competition in this region. Even well-known beauty brands, previously highly successful, are now proving ineffective in the midst of discount wars. According to a Reuters report on the 8th, Evelyn Zhu, the Chinese branding professional, no longer considers expensive beauty products a viable option. Despite China retaining its position as the world's second-largest market in this industry, Ms. Zhu has joined millions of other consumers in cutting expenses, choosing to spend money only on essential skincare products, and turning to local brands. For the general consumer, this moderation emerges against the backdrop of the Chinese economic slowdown. For long-standing beauty brands like L'Oréal, Estée Lauder, and Louis Vuitton, who have depended on the $52 billion growth in China's beauty market, this spells bad news. According to an analysis conducted by the brokerage firm Jefferies, there was a significant decline in sales for the beauty division of the LVMH group in China, experiencing an 8% drop in the first half of the year. Estée Lauder, constituting one-third of its business in China, also faced a 12% decrease in sales during the same period. Even regional brands like Shiseido, which has regarded China as its largest market for years, are facing challenges. In response to the economic slowdown, certain luxury brands have implemented strategies such as offering substantial discounts, up to 40%, and providing gifts during shopping events like the annual Singles' Day. Despite these efforts, analysts suggest that such measures have proven ineffective. Jacques Roizen, advisory director in Shanghai for Digital Luxury Group, a luxury brand digital agency, said, during the Double 11 period, the Tmall GMV of the world's largest brands averaged a decrease of about 40%. He added that currently, they can no longer use discounts as leverage to boost consumption because they have reached their maximum. Grégoire Grandchamp, co-founder of Next Beauty, expressed that the discounts offered by beauty brands on Chinese online platforms this year are crazy. As US-Japan relations escalate, Beijing is no longer on equal footing. She takes action personally. Following the recent establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership between Vietnam, the United States, and Japan, CCP leader Xi Jinping cannot sit still and decides to take action personally. According to a report from the official state media Xinhua, Xi Jinping is slated to visit Vietnam from December 12 to 13. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin outlined the relevant arrangements during a press conference on December 7. Xi Jinping is expected to engage in discussions with Nguyen Phu Trong, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, and President Vo Van Thuong. Additionally, he will meet with Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh and National Assembly Chairwoman Vong Dinh Hue. The discussions will focus on elevating the new positioning of China-Vietnam relations, encompassing 6 major areas: politics, security, practical cooperation, public opinion foundation, multilateral issues, and maritime concerns. In recent years, Vietnam has sought to bolster its relationship with the United States and adopt a diplomatic strategy to balance major power competition. In September of this year, President Biden visited Vietnam, leading to an elevation of the relationship between Vietnam and the United States to a comprehensive strategic partnership. President Vo Van Thuong's visit to Japan last month culminated in the announcement, on November 27, of the establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership between Vietnam and Japan. Presently, the diplomatic status of the United States and Japan in Vietnam is on par with that of Beijing. Mr. Lai Jianping, an international law master's student at the China University of Political Science and Law, conveyed to Sound of Hope, as geopolitical tensions between China and the United States escalate, Vietnam's role becomes increasingly crucial. Vietnam wields significant geopolitical influence over the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Given the escalating confrontation between China and the United States, particularly the strategic encirclement that the United States has orchestrated to contain the CCP, China is seeking to leverage Vietnam, consistently signaling its pro-Vietnam stance. Even Xi Jinping's personal visit aims to align Vietnam with China, either in confronting the United States or, at the very least, establishing a stronger mutual trust relationship with Vietnam to ensure it does not align too closely with the United States. This is a strategic move by the CCP, fundamentally aimed at addressing the highly unfavorable international geopolitical situation for the CCP and attempting to break the strategic encirclement that the United States has formed against China. Vietnam treads cautiously on the diplomatic tightrope. With the onset of the China-US trade war, the United States imposed tariffs on goods exported from China. Numerous enterprises in the international supply chain relocated out of China, including many Chinese companies establishing operations in Vietnam. Vietnam has now become the CCP's largest trading partner in the ASEAN region. According to Chinese customs statistics, the bilateral trade volume between China and Vietnam exceeded $200 billion for the first time in 2021, reaching $230.2 billion. This represents a year-on-year increase of 19.7% in US dollars. At the end of the previous month, Wang Wentao, the Minister of Commerce of the CCP, visited Vietnam and met with Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh. He emphasized that Beijing intends to deepen and expand trade and investment cooperation between China and Vietnam. Reuters, citing senior Vietnamese officials and diplomats, reported that discussions are underway to significantly upgrade Vietnam's railway system to further enhance the flow of goods between the two countries. The upgraded railway will traverse the rare earth core area in northern Vietnam, which is also part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Senior commentator Lan Shu pointed out that there are presently two significant forces in competition, one being the alliance between the US, Japan, and Australia, and the other being the partnership between the CCP and Russia. In the ongoing struggle between these two sides, Vietnam is navigating the tightrope with extreme caution. It aims to secure substantial economic benefits from the West while safeguarding its own security considerations, turning a blind eye to threats from the CCP. Xi Jinping, as a dictator of the CCP, cannot simply visit Vietnam casually. In other words, if he goes, it signifies that there has already been a deal between the CCP and Vietnam. Xi Jinping, at the very least, believes it's worthwhile to make this deal, otherwise, he wouldn't go. Vietnam-China ties beyond comprehensive strategic partnership. According to a Voice of America report, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in a press release, stated that during discussions in Hanoi earlier this month, Vietnamese Foreign Minister Bui Thanh Son conveyed Vietnam's eagerness to strengthen coordination and cooperation with China in international and regional affairs. He also expressed support for the creation of a community with a shared future for humanity, endorsing global development initiatives, global security proposals, and global civilization proposals. This suggests that the relationship between Vietnam and the Chinese Communist Party is poised to advance beyond the current comprehensive strategic partnership, a development interpreted by the CCP as surpassing the relationship between the United States and Vietnam. Mr. Lan Shu remarked, for Vietnam, the crucial priority is maintaining independence from both China and the United States, avoiding alignment with either side. Despite receiving significant investments and orders from the West, direct alignment with Western countries would pose a substantial threat because the CCP is right at its doorstep, and Vietnam lacks the national strength and military power to resist potential actions by the CCP. Vietnam is safeguarding its own security. Consequently, it initiates agreements with Japan and the United States, assuring not to target a third country, aiming to reassure the CCP. Subsequently, agreements with the CCP assert not targeting a third party, reassuring Japan and the United States. Japan and the United States make straightforward requests. Vietnam has valuable deep water ports, so if the US military can't use them, at least don't let the CCP use them, that would be sufficient. Xi Jinping recognizes that Vietnam cannot forsake its economic interests and align with the CCP. Additionally, the historical relationship between the Communist Party of Vietnam and the Communist Party of China has not been very amicable, compounded by territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Vietnam maintains a neutral position, primarily guided by its own interests and security considerations. U.S. aims to cut China out of electric vehicle supply chain. The U.S. government is paving a way forward to exclude Communist China from the U.S. electric vehicle (EV) supply chain. According to the proposed guidance on clean energy vehicle provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act, released on December 1 by the U.S. Department of the Treasury and Internal Revenue Service, consumers can take a tax credit of up to $7,500 for purchasing a clean energy vehicle. But the new guidelines clarify that starting in 2024, clean energy vehicles will not be eligible if they contain any battery components manufactured or assembled by a foreign entity of concern, FEOC, either from China, Russia, North Korea, or Iran. To what extent can be considered as being controlled by FEOC, the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, has proposed detailed rules, including those individuals or entities holding 25% or more of the board of directors, voting rights, or equity interest in the entity. It also covers those granting a license or contract to a person that gives equivalent rights. The DOE's proposal for defining FEOC is pending a 30-day consultation period before being finalized. However, U.S. automakers need to determine how to proceed with their investments or deals that may be related to the extent to which they can use parts from Chinese companies in their supply chains. According to the U.S. Department of the Treasury, These provisions are expected to gear toward lowering costs for consumers, spurring a boom in U.S. manufacturing, and strengthening energy security by building resilient supply chains with allies and partners. The act will be subject to a public comment period of several weeks and will ultimately take effect on January 1st of next year. According to John Podesta, senior advisor to the President for Clean Energy Innovation and Implementation, the move is among the Biden administration's attempts to reverse the decades-long trend of letting jobs and factories go overseas to China, and ensure that the electric vehicle future will be made in America. On August 16, the Biden administration signed the Inflation Reduction Act with $369 billion worth of emissions-cutting measures for low-carbon energy and electric vehicles. Since the bill was enacted, the private sector has announced nearly $100 billion in investments in U.S. clean energy vehicles and the battery supply chain. The Chinese embassy in Washington criticized the new U.S. rules as another example of the U.S.'s practices of unilateralism and economic bullying. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.